Welcome back, guys, to the 10-Minute Bitcoin Show, the show that your favorite influencer warned you about. We'll have you out of here before the next block. Today, we're talking about one of my old favorite subjects. We're talking about 1971. Do you guys know WTF happened in 1971? Ray Dalio seems to understand. He says in 1971, the U.S. ran out of money and defaulted on its debts. Now, they didn't say it that way, but by moving away from the gold standard, money as we understood it ended. I expected the stock market to plunge, but it went on to rise nearly 25%. That surprised me. But when I looked into it, I discovered the exact same thing happened in 1933, and it had the exact same effect. Here's why. I really liked this video that Dalio put out on this subject. It's very short. It's only like 4 minutes long. It's extremely concise, and it contains very good information. This is to me, this is the piece of the puzzle that a lot of people miss when trying to understand economics and finance, particularly when looking at markets today. You see a lot of people look at housing and just say bubble. You see a lot of people look at the stock market and just say bubble. I'm not here to tell you that any one particular sector is or is not in a bubble, like a localized bubble of sorts, but people really struggle to grok this because their point of reference, their unit of economic calculation is broken. And they see numbers going up and their brain can't understand why numbers are going up. And the reason numbers are going up is not so much that they're becoming more valuable per se, it's that the denominator is getting larger. And by consequence, the numerator has to go up as well to compensate, even if the value is just staying the same. So they see the numbers of dollars of prices for things like goods at the grocery store, stocks for companies, the price of housing, everything. They watch it go up and up and up and up and up, and it breaks something in their brain. And the reason that is happening is because it is the U.S. soft defaulting on its debts, which is identical to what happened in 1971. The U.S. had all of this gold outstanding. The U.S. had all of this debt outstanding in the form of dollars, which were IOU for gold bars held in reserve at the U.S. Treasury. Now, 1971, like from 1945-ish to 1971, is a different dynamic than like what happened in 1933, which Ray Dalio mentions at the end of that tweet there. 1933, the U.S. made it illegal for U.S. citizens to own gold. And it was actually illegal for U.S. citizens to own gold throughout that entire period of Bretton Woods, from 1933 up until the time Bretton Woods started, halfway through World War II, up until the end of Bretton Woods. It was illegal for United States citizens to own gold. So even though the US dollar was technically like a gold IOU, it was a debt-based currency. It was a promissory note that was issued and was basically as good as gold because it could be redeemed for gold. U.S. citizens were not capable of redeeming those dollars for gold at the U.S. Treasury. That right was reserved exclusively for foreign sovereign nations who would hold dollars as a reserve currency. Like Dalio says, in 1971, when they ended the convertibility of the U.S. dollar into gold, it was essentially a soft default on all of the debts that the United States had outstanding. Or in other words, the dollars that they had printed and sent abroad were no longer redeemable for gold. So they were devaluing the currency, and as a consequence of that, the prices of the stocks went up. So if you don't understand monetary economics, it's easy to look at a situation like that and conclude, oh, this is really bearish and bullish, right? Like that's the way that traders like to try to think about these things. But if you don't understand the monetary economics behind what's going on there, then you won't understand that when you're devaluing the currency, even though what Nixon was doing was quote unquote bearish, right? Like it's bullish in the monetary sense, in the sense that it means currency devaluation, and currency devaluation means number go up, right? And it's a similar situation if you go all the way back to 1933, because it really was the same exact thing. The United States government suspended specie redemption on an individual basis. Same question, right? In 1971, What happened in 1971? The United States government suspended specie redemption of the US dollar in the international market. 1933, the US government suspended specie redemption of the US dollar in the retail market, in the individual market, like US citizen basis. Each of these is what we would probably call a soft default, because the United States would say that they've never defaulted on their debts. And what they're talking about is the bonds that they issue, which are denominated in US dollars. Well, if you don't have the money to pay back your debts that you owe in US dollars, what you can do is you just devalue the value of those dollars, right? And that's why we have this insane debt ceiling in the United States that keeps going up and keeps going up. And it's the only thing Congress can seem to agree on, is that we need to come together like every once a year or whatever, when the government's getting ready to shut down, and we need to all agree. It's way higher now. I need to update this chart, but we can all agree when it's time to screw the little guy and raise the debt ceiling and devalue the dollar so that we can print more money. When the U.S. untethered itself from gold in 1971, we basically made this, I don't want to say sustainable, but achievable in perpetuity. There's all kinds of second and third order consequences to this. This is very, very destructive to society. Debasing the currency erodes people's ability to plan and save for the future. I think we've talked about this before in a past episode, but a quick recap. We've got these three problems that we need to solve, and money is simply a tool that allows us to solve those three problems. Those problems are: we need to be able to store value through time and space. We need to be able to exchange our money with other people for goods and services that we want. And that requires, if we don't want to barter, right, we need what's called a coincidence of wants there. The other person has to want what we have in trade, right? So money is a way to solve that problem, that coincidence of wants problem, to get the goods and services that we need. And then we also need to be able to perform economic calculation. You've heard these things described as store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. These are not properties of money. These are functions of money, because money is a tool and money is solving those problems. Money is in many respects an input, and those problems are what we need to solve. They're a function of money. So we have this tool that we use for thousands of years to solve those problems. And it's historically was always gold. But this gold, it ended up in these situations where the United States was basically printing way more money than they had gold in reserves, right? And we ended up in this situation where it was really easy for them to just default on the gold owed and to devalue the currency in exchange and continue to allow those liabilities to grow and grow and grow as they continue to devalue the currency. But with Bitcoin, we have the ability to opt out of this debt treadmill. With Bitcoin, we have the ability to shift our economic unit of account from something that is unstable, easily debased, easily seized, easily censored, and we can move to this open monetary protocol standard, right? And this is why Bitcoin is so exciting to me, is because for years, I was focused on this problem. They broke the money in 1971. They had broken the money many times in history throughout history before that. But in 1971, it seemed like they really figured out how to break the money, but just barely keep everything else held together with gum and duct tape. And we're all along for the ride, guys. I'm on Uncle Sam's bus with you here, going down this bumpy old road, and it's getting worse. The potholes are bad. There's hot coffee spilling in laps. It's not very fun, but we can opt out. We can opt into a better system of money using an open protocol called Bitcoin, right? And we talk about Bitcoin every day here on the 10-Minute Bitcoin Show. I'm going to keep talking about Bitcoin every day here on the 10-Minute Bitcoin Show. For me, Bitcoin is BTC, right? There are a lot of other options for open network monetary protocols. I think that they're all shitcoins. I think that they're all useless. This is a very serious problem, and it requires a very serious solution. That's why we focus exclusively on Bitcoin, BTC, Bitcoin Core here at the 10-Minute Bitcoin Show. I hope you guys learned something from this episode, and I will see you next time.